Hi, welcome here. It's Jessica Mahoney. This is an ASMR reading of The Fellowship of the Ring, Lord of the Rings Part 1 by J.R.R. Tolkien. We are continuing with Chapter 3. We are on page 106. We're on the second paragraph if you're following along with the actual work. Let's get started. The woods on either side became denser. The trees were now younger and thicker, and as the lane went lower, running down into a fold of the hills, there were many deep breaks of hazel on the rising slopes either hand. At last the elves turned aside from the path. The green ride lay almost unseen through the thickets of the light, and this they followed as it wound away back up the wooded slopes on the top of a shoulder of the hills that stood out into the lower land of the river valley. Suddenly they came out of the shadow of the trees, and before them lay a wide space of grass, grey under the night. On three sides the wood pressed upon it, but eastward the ground fell steeply, and the tops of the dark trees, growing at the bottom of the slope, were below their feet. Beyond the lowlands lay dim and flat under the stars. Nearer at hand, fewer lights twinkled in the valley of Rudhall. The elves sat on the grass and spoke together in soft voices. They seemed to take no further notice of the hobbits. Frodo and his companions wrapped themselves in cloaks and blankets, and drowsiness stole over them. The night grew on. The lights in the valley went out. Pippin fell asleep, pillowed on a green hillock. Away in the east swung Remirath. The netted stars, and slowly above mist-red Bogle rose, glowing like a jewel of fire. Then, by some shift of airs, all the mist was drawn away like a veil, and there leaned up, as he climbed over the rim of the world, the swordsman of the sky, Menelvagar, and his shining belt. The elves all burst into song. Suddenly, under the trees, a fire sprang up with a red light. "Come," the elves called out to the hobbits. "Come, now is the time for speech and merriment." Pippin sat up and rubbed his eyes. He shivered. "There's a fire in the hall, and food for hungry guests," said an elf standing before him. At the south end of the greensward there was an opening. There the green floor ran into the wood and formed a wide space like a hall, roofed by the boughs of trees. Their great trunks ran like pillars down each side. In the middle there was a wood fire blazing, and upon the tree pillars torches with lights of gold and silver were burning steadily. The elves sat round the fire upon the grass or upon the sawn, rings of old trunks. Some went to and fro, bearing cups and pouring drink. Others brought food on heaped plates and dishes. "This is poor fare," they said to the hobbits, "for we are lodging in the green wood, far from our halls. If you ever are our guests at home, we will treat you better." "It seems to me good enough for a party," said Frodo. Pippin afterwards recalled little of either food or drink, for his mind was filled with the light upon the elves' faces, and the sound of voices so various and so beautiful that he felt in a walking dream. But he remembered that there was bread, surpassing the savour of a white, surpassing the savour of a fair white loaf to one who's starving, and fruits sweet as wild berries and richer than the tended fruits of gardens. He drained a cup that was filled with a fragrant draught, cool as a clear mountain, golden as a summer afternoon. Sam could never describe in words, nor picture clearly to himself what he felt or thought that night, though it remained in his memory as one of the chief events in his life. The nearest he ever got to say was, "Well, sir, if I could grow apples like that, I'd call myself a gardener." But it was the singing that went to my heart, if you know what I mean. Frodo sat, eating, drinking, and talking with delight, but his mind was chiefly on the words spoken. He knew little of the elf speech, and listened eagerly. Now and again he spoke to those that served him, and thanked them in their own language. They smiled at him and said, laughing, "Here is a jewel among hobbits." After a while, Pippin fell fast asleep, and was lifted up and borne away to a bower under the trees. There he was, laid upon a soft bed, and slept the rest of the night away. Sam refused to leave his master. When Pippin had gone, he came and sat curled up at Frodo's feet, where at last he nodded and closed his eyes. Frodo remained long awake, talking with Gildo. They spoke of many things, old and new, and Frodo questioned Gildo much about happenings in the wide world outside the Shire. The tidings were mostly sad and ominous. Of gathering darkness, the wars of men, and the flight of the elves. At last Frodo asked the question that was nearest to his heart. "Tell me, Gildo, have you ever seen Bilbo since he left us?" Gildo smiled. "Yes," he answered, "twice. He said farewell to us on this very spot. But I saw him once again, far from here. He would say no more about Bilbo." And Frodo fell silent. "You do not ask me or tell me much that concerns yourself, Frodo," said Gildo. "But I already know a little, and I can read more in your face and in the thought behind your questions. You are leaving the Shire, and yet you doubt that you will find what you seek, or accomplish what you intend, or that you will ever return. Is not that so?" "It is," said Frodo, "but I thought my going was a secret known only to Gandalf and my faithful Sam." He looked down at Sam, who was snoring gently. "The secret will not reach the enemy from us," said Gildo. "The enemy?" said Frodo. "Then you know why I'm leaving the Shire." "I don't know for what reason the enemy is pursuing you," answered Gildo, "but I perceive that he is. Strange indeed, though that seemed to me. And I warn you that peril is now both before you and behind you and upon either side." "You mean the riders? I feared that they were servants of the enemy. What are the Black Riders? Has Gandalf told you nothing? Nothing about such creatures? Then I think it is not for me to say more, lest terror should keep you from your journey. For it seems to me that you have set out only just in time, if indeed you are in time. You must now make haste, and neither stay nor turn back, for the Shire is no longer any protection to you." I cannot imagine what information could be more terrifying than the hints and warnings, exclaimed Frodo. "I knew that danger lay ahead, of course, but I didn't expect to meet it on our own Shire. Can't a hobbit walk from the water to the river in peace?" "But it is not your own Shire," said Gildo. "Others dwelt there." before hobbits were, and others will dwell here again when hobbits are no more. The wide world is all about you. You can fence yourselves in, but you cannot forever fence it out. I know, and yet it has seemed so safe and familiar. What can I do now? My plan was to leave the Shire secretly and make my way to Rivendell, but now my footsteps are dogged before I ever get to Buckland. Alright folks, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We are nearing the end of chapter 3, approaching chapter 4 now, so I'm really excited about that. Please like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you soon.